Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Pleasure to have you here today. We are going to be talking about Nightcrawler, one of my favorite champions that has been added to the game in the last 6 months, and now from a couple of weeks ago actually is available in the premium hero crystals and 4-star hero crystals. So you can actually quite, well, not commonly, but you know, occasionally have a shot at this champion outside of the featured ones, and that's really good. He's an amazing champion. I really love the design of this champion. There's a lot to him, and I've learned quite a bit more about this champion in the last week, which I wish I had known before, because going into the Road to Labyrinth Chapter 4, if I had known what I know now, I would not have made so much of an idiot of myself fighting him, because there is actually a way that you can completely negate his evade ability, and we're going to be talking about some strategies on how to do that, while also talking about this champion's kind of uses in the game. So Nightcrawler, from my perspective, his main use in the game is Alliance War defense. He's incredibly good for that. I don't think necessarily on reflection now he makes a good boss for Alliance War, but he's good for a lot of nodes, just as like a really annoying champion to fight, like champions with high evade chances, and kind of when you start off fighting Nightcrawler, he's going to have 31% chance to evade. That is pretty high, and you're going to have to go into a few attacks before you can change his stance and make him not evade. So overall, I think, you know, he's a pretty solid Alliance War defender, and there are still so many people that don't know the tips and tricks that we're going to share in this video on how to counter him. So let's talk about that, guys. Let's talk about his two stances. So basically Nightcrawler has two different stances. There is Neophyte mode and also swashbuckling mode. So Neophyte mode is the stance that he will always start every fight in, and in this stance he has a 14% chance to evade attacks, and this is actually increased by 15% against any physical attacks. So pretty much all of the attacks in the game are physical, apart from, I believe it's Doctor Strange and Magneto. There might be a couple of others that I can't think of off the top of my head at the moment, but a lot of the kind of standard 5 combo attacks are physical, so he's got a very high percentage chance to evade those in kind of his standard one, and evade is just so great, screws so many people over, and combined with the fact that this champion actually deals quite a nice amount of damage, can really like wreck people in like one evade in Alliance War, and that happened to me quite a few times on the Road to Labyrinth. So he's got Neophyte mode, which is his evade mode, and then he has swashbuckling mode, which is essentially his damage mode. Now the way that he kind of triggers and bounces between the two modes is by dodging back and then holding block for 2 seconds. He can shift his tactics and switch his combat mode, and if you dupe the champion, this is reduced by 0.3 seconds. So not really that much time reduction, but his duped ability actually does a lot in terms of increasing the champion's overall damage output. If you're playing the champion correctly and aggressively, duping this champion can almost like double the damage of him. It's really good duped ability. But then again, you know, there are some scenarios, I guess, where he's a very fun champion to play, but in comparison to some of the crazy damage dealers in the game, your Scarlet Witch, your Thor, your Star-Lord, he's still a little bit behind, but he's still a good damage dealing option, certainly not bad at all. But yeah, I think he really shines in terms of Alliance War defense. Anyway, let's look at all the other cool stuff that he does. So also, while in swashbuckling mode as a passive, he randomly gains a precision buff, granting him 25% additional crit for 4 seconds. So another nice addition to the damage mode, the swashbuckling mode, is he will occasionally get even more crit. And I think this champion really excels on a crit team. So if you want to play him for maximum damage, I'd definitely build kind of like a full crit team around him. Probably the X-Men team is the best synergy in my opinion, just because you get so much from that. So while dodging back, one of the passives that he has is exactly the same as the, I think it's Dexterity Mastery. So while dodging back, he cannot be hit by attacks, and also when he successfully dodges an attack, he gains additional crit. So basically, he has Dexterity as a passive. So if you are a new player and this is one of the first champions you get, and you don't yet have Dexterity, it's a pretty happy day for you. But for most people, that doesn't help out too much. One of the really cool things about Nightcrawler as well is he actually teleports backwards, and that is an awesome animation, very fun to play with. And also in comparison to fighting a champion like Spider-Man, because it is this kind of like big flashy teleport back when he is evading or dodging back, it's quite easy to see visually and kind of recognize that, oh, you know, he's evaded or dodged back and react to that. I find that a little bit easier to do because, you know, Spider-Man just has like, he just dashes back a bit. I don't know why I did the head motion there, but you know, it's nice that you have this big visual cue when he's evading, and especially kind of at the start of the fight, that can make it a little bit easier. Also on critical hits, Nightcrawler's Cutlass has a 61% chance to strike a deep wound, so dealing 37% of his attack as bleed damage instantly, and the chance to score a deep wound increases by up to 10% based on how low the opponent's armor is. So this is basically bleed damage, but not damage over time, which in some circumstances can be really, really good, because bleed damage ignores all kind of resistance and armor. But in some cases, it can be maybe not so good because, you know, bleed immune champions, they're not going to take any damage there. But I think the main advantage of having, like, instant bleed damage is that, especially maybe if you were to ever use this champion for Alliance War attack against a really beefy Juggernaut, for example, you'd get the deep wounds damage, you get the quite nice bleed damage without necessarily triggering willpower, which is, you know, a very unique circumstance, but something that you can maybe keep in mind for the future. Now, I guess what we want to talk about, and something that I haven't really covered yet, is what is the tactic for getting Nightcrawler to change his combat stance. And from my kind of experience fighting the champion, it's to do kind of your standard combo and hope that you don't get an evade, but then kind of preemptively block, and then you should be blocking, and then he should be blocking, and then if you attack into the champion, then he should dash backwards and then block again, and then if you attack into him 4 times, he's going to be holding down that block long enough, and then he's going to go from Neofem to Swashbuckling, and then when he's in Swashbuckling, he doesn't have his passive evade. So it's a little bit tricky to do, but by forcing the champion and kind of doing 4 attacks into him and then just quickly swiping back so you don't get hit after that. Again, you don't want to do 5 attacks because he's going to retaliate after that, but 4 attacks should be enough time to actually, you know, trigger that. But also it's a little bit tricky sometimes because even when holding down block, champions with evade, you know, they can evade, so you can slip up, and it's not like it's not super easy to do. You're not going to be able to reliably do it every time, but if you ever see Nightcrawler as like an Alliance War boss, it's something that you really want to do, because if you can get that sword in kind of the first like 20-30 seconds of the fight, then, you know, he's not going to evade for the rest of it, and then you're just dealing with a character who's, you know, got some quite easy special animations to evade, and then you can, you know, fight him a little bit more effectively. Again, it does take a bit of practice, it does take a bit of skill, but by baiting out that stance switch, you can much easily fight the much easier. You're gonna have a better time fighting the champion. Anyway, let's talk about some of the other stuff. So special attack 1, all his specials do kind of slightly different stuff depending on what stance he's in. So special attack 1 increases the chance to evade by 26%, an additional 26% if he's in Neofem mode, and also if he's in Swashbuckling mode, it increases his crit damage by 31%. Critical damage isn't too valuable, so that isn't too great, but especially, you know, if this champion is a defender and the person fighting him hasn't managed to bait the stance before the level 1, it's just going to be even more annoying to do. And, you know, he can essentially, if he's playing quite aggressively, he can just be really tricky to kill sometimes. So that's a nice addition to the special one as a defensive champion. Special attack 2, this attack reduces the enemy block proficiency by 31% while in Neofem mode. That's only if he lands it successfully, which most of the time he's not going to do, so you don't really need to worry about that too much. And special attack 2, the chance to score a deep wound with this attack increases by 24% while in Swashbuckling mode. So if you're in that damage stance, you're pretty much always going to get a deep wound proc from doing the special attack too. But again, this champion does, in my opinion, benefit quite a bit from being on a crit team, because you're going to get more deep wound procs when this champion is duped. That's going to mean your attack bonus is pretty much up all the time, and that stacks up to 3 times, so it's pretty good. And special attack 3, if you're doing a long fight, like for example the Winter Soldier in Realm of Legends, so this attack doesn't really deal that much damage, but the really big pro of it is it gives you a permanent 19% increase to score deep wound, which is crazy good. So if you're doing a long fight, special attack free is worth probably using like 2 times, or I'm not entirely sure if it stacks, but at least 1 time for sure. So overall, this champion, what I really like about his design is he's very versatile. He's like a good champion to play. Again, the problem is, like, when you're looking at offensive champions and, like, actually, you know, champion that you fight with, you're always kind of, like, comparing it in the wider spectrum to Scarlet Witch 4, Star-Lord, like, the really overpowered champions. And this is a great champion, but he's not quite god tier when you play him, but he definitely has a use as a really annoying champion to fight in Alliance for. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've learned a little bit more about Nightcrawler in today's video and how to play the champion and some of the cool stuff that he does. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a thumbs up. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. That would also be awesome. Apart from that, guys, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.